Hi, this is Neve here and welcome to the Scrap FX YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making a really quick art journal page using the Distress Oxide sprays and some of the new release stencils from the June release, for June 2019 release. Excuse me. So this is a new flower bud stencil, which is a gorgeous stencil, and could be a flower bud, could be an artichoke. And I'm just using some texture paste to apply this stencil to the page. I've painted my background in my Use It Up journal just with black gesso, and this texture paste is from Finnabair. It's actually a texture crackle paste, so I'm just sort of spreading it out. Now, I don't usually clean my stencils, but because I was turning this over in the page, I needed to have it clean so I could put it in a different direction on my page. If you're really worried about texture pastes and so on, certainly you would soak your page and not leave it on there like that. It really doesn't hurt your stencils all that much, particularly on thinner stencils. Actually, it kind of strengthens them a little bit. So if you don't like to clean, you can use it as an excuse to strengthen your stencils. But because the Scrap FX ones are such good quality and they're quite thick stencils, it probably is a good idea to clean them off. So just going in with the spatula and spreading it through, and I was actually really good with this one. Well, I don't usually do this, but I actually left this overnight, or at least for a few hours, to dry properly before I did the next step to it. With crackle pastes in particular, it's probably good to leave them overnight to dry because you get that natural crackle. You can do it with a heat gun if you're pushed for time, but sometimes it doesn't work all that effectively, and particularly because I knew that I was going to be applying some water-based inks over the surface. I want to make sure it was really dry. So this after it's dried, and I'm just going in with the distress trays and spraying over the surface. Now, you do need to shake up your distress sprays really well because it's a pigment and a dye ink mixed in together. So you need to make sure it's all together, and you'll also notice that I'm heating in between changing the colours so I can get that layered effect. If I spray them wet on wet, they are going to run together and they are going to change the colours. So you do need to be aware of that. However, they do actually take a little while to dry, and even with the heat gun going on these, they still weren't all that dry. So you can see I'm adding contrasting colours and it's working okay, but you can certainly see the shine on the page, and that tells you that these inks aren't dry. At the end, I go in with a paper towel and sort of blot some of the bits off. They are very pigmented, so it still stains the page, which is good, but you just need to be patient with them. Something I'm not very good at. I'm really not very patient when it comes to things like this, so hopefully you will do better than I will. So once you finish spraying, just heat set it and set it aside. And you'll notice I've got a lot of overspray on my glass mat. If you've watched the birthday cards video, you'll notice I put some paper out which collected that overspray, which I can use again in future. For this, I actually grabbed some tags and just dipped it into the wet distress ink. So I've got some tags ready to go. And once I've put some of the ink on, I go back in with a different colour. I add some water to it so it gets a bit runny again and dip it in. And it gave me some quite cool backgrounds that I can use for another day in something else. Stick it into a junk journal, or, you know, bind it into a book, use it as a background for something. So I'm just swiping those tags through. And if you've got something sitting on your desk, in the past I've had doilies there and I've swiped doilies through it just to pick up the extra ink. I've got some offcuts of card from when I made some other bits and pieces, so I'm just popping those in. So nothing really goes to waste. Unfortunately, when you sort of get down to this end, you start losing the colour, think, oh, I'll spray out some more, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of using up what you've got. But I certainly haven't wasted much of my ink. So you can see there, that's been sitting aside and it's still quite damp. It really does take a while to dry. The reason for that is as it's a dye pigment based ink, what it really wants to do is soak into the paper to dry, and because I've got that gesso layer, that's preventing it from soaking into the surface of the paper. So you do need to be patient with it. The other thing to remember is that because they are water reactive inks, it will continue to react even days, weeks, months later. So if you accidentally spill water on this or drop water on it, it's still going to react. Because I quite like this page, it's a really simple page, I just wanted to have some words on it. So I'm just using these little hashtag words, which is do what you love, love what you do, which I thought was really good reminder to have in my art journal. And particularly on a page using the Distress Oxide sprays, because I have a kind of love-hate relationship with the Distress Oxides, both the ink pads and the sprays. There's something I'm slowly becoming used to and getting better friends with, but they've taken me a little while to get there. So I don't know if anyone else relates to that. Finally, just because I had a few gaps on my page, I've got this stamp again from Scrap FX, and I'm just going in with some archival ink in Mermaid Lagoon and stamping in the background just to add a little bit of interest into the background. You can certainly see in the top left hand corner we've got the purple coming up through the ink, and now I'm just going in with my Connect glue and gluing that down onto the page. Because this chipboard's it's very robust chipboard, but its profile isn't that thick. It sits in your art journal really well and doesn't make it too lumpy or bumpy. If you're really concerned about it, you could certainly separate out the layers and make it a little bit thinner. But because this is such a finely detailed chipboard, I decided just to leave it as one piece. So that's the close-up of my journal. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you later. Bye for now.